President Trump said, I don't listen to Logan and Will. I think this is worth our time. And look, I think some of our audience feels the same way, which is the sort of Autopen gate, as I said, as they look and start officially investigating President Biden's actions, Autopen use, who held the Autopen, if you will, and we're going to go through that. President Trump, again, put out a statement, an investigation. It is a little unclear, though, and Will and I, when we were having this conversation, I said, well, who was doing this investigation? Who did he empower to do this? It's not clear.
That's right. So in this memorandum that came out, and it's on the White House website, it says, today, President Donald J. Trump signed a presidential memorandum directing an investigation into who ran the United States while President Biden was in office. The memorandum directs an investigation into whether certain individuals conspired to deceive the public about Biden's mental state and unconstitutionally exercise the authorities and responsibilities of the president, as well as mandating an investigation into the circumstances surrounding Biden's purported execution of numerous executive actions during his final years in the office, examining policy documents signed with an Autopen, who authorized its use, and the validity of the resulting presidential policy decisions. We got into a lot of this earlier in the week about the Autopen whole situation, the investigation, and it does seem that the president is doubling down on this. It is going down this path to see what they can find out. I don't know how they will find a smoking gun of there was a giant conspiracy that Joe Biden had no idea about, and therefore they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt in some sort of court that these
what do you do with that information? Like, I just don't know if this is necessary, is where we need to go.
Pardon power is absolute. I argued that for President Trump. It's absolute. And there's no requirement that it be signed, as you said. There's no requirement that it be a pen. So this is, political theater, so to speak, but I don't think it's worth a lot of time because the president has the authority. As it goes back to the Hawaii, the United States versus Hawaii, which was the first case that dealt with the constitutionality of the travel prohibitions from various countries of origin for access. We were involved in that, in the second rewrite of that, because I remember where we were. We were at we had a bunch of our lawyers were in, and I think Logan and Will, you were there. We were at a Ruth Chris Steakhouse.
We were at dinner.
At dinner at a project. We were doing something in Vanderbilt in their executive education program with a lot of our team. And it came in that night. The call came in, and we went to work on it, drafted it up that night, got it out, and then ultimately we were successful at the Supreme Court. So the president, this is just reasserting the rights he already has.
What is the conclusion you're looking for? What is it? If you just want to know the information, I think that's fine. If you want to be Jake Tapper, you want to write the book about it, fine. I don't think I have an issue with that. But what are you going to do about it legally? That is going to be the question. If you can find some sort of smoking gun. President Biden, former President Biden, has made a statement already saying, I was the one controlling all of this. I don't know what they're talking about. Of course, what do you expect from President Joe Biden? But let's hear specifically from President Trump moments ago about this.
Well, look, the Autopen, I think, is the big scandal outside of the rigged election of 2020. I think the biggest scandal of the last many years is the Autopen. And who's using it? I happen to think I know, okay, because I'm here. And I'm not a big Autopen person, fortunately. I'm glad. I'm very glad. It's an easy way out. But it's a very bad thing, very dangerous. I sign important documents. Usually when they put documents in front of you, they're important. Even if you're signing ambassadorships, and I consider that important. I think it's inappropriate. You have somebody that's devoting 4 years of their life or more to being an ambassador. I think that person deserves to get a real signature, not an Autopen signature. And I can tell Autopen easily. I can look at it like two little pinholes from pulling the paper, right? You always see the pinholes. Yeah. It's real easy to tell about Autopen.
I don't disagree with a lot of what he's saying, is that President Trump does take the signings very seriously. He has the signing ceremonies for almost everything he signs. But the one caveat I have with that is that currently, as it stands, and as the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel has a memo that dates back to 2005, Autopen, having someone affix your signature to legislation, which is the only document that, at least from the text of the Constitution, is required to be signed by the Constitution, it is of the opinion through study and through court cases and legal tradition going back through British common law and everything that makes up legal theory, that having someone affix your signature to legislation does not violate the text of the Constitution saying signed by the president. So therefore, using an Autopen, if the president is making the decision that this shall be signed and says, subordinate, put my signature on the document, that is constitutional as American jurisprudence views the nature of signing something. So while he may take that privilege of being the president and signing things much more seriously than
more ceremonially
every other president at this point, I don't disagree. I love that he does that. I love that about President Trump, that he does take it seriously and shows everyone I am signing it. But where the caveat is
a
that
huge Sharpie.
I don't. It is a very. Where do you get those?
I may have one in my office.
I know you do, but you don't just go to Staples and get that size Sharpie.
No, they got his name
right
on them. So,
but all that to say is that that's where I have the struggle with this entire thing. Is that I agree with the philosophy of President Trump about signing things, and I think that is a wonderful thing that America can see the president in action and working. But it also doesn't take away that Autopen can be used for legislation. And so what's the point? You can just make this statement and he can be like, I only am going to do it this way, and that's great. But it's the investigation, especially when you have Joe Biden saying, I did all this. That's kind of the end of the investigation.
Yeah,
because you need to also, for President Trump's sake, in the future, if the next president is a Democrat and wanting to go and undo everything he did, even beyond the scope of what they should be allowed to do, then you don't want him being the one to say, I don't believe you.
This can be very, as Will said, it's going to be a very hard one to solve because President Biden is not going to admit this.
Well, and even President Biden's latest statement that he has issued is, let me be clear.
I did it all.
All executive orders, pardons, legislation, proclamations, they came from me. Yeah. So at the end of the day...
you hear different things from Mike Johnson and those statements that are made. But again, it becomes hearsay and what actually is provable, I don't know. And I don't know if this is worthwhile. They care about what's happening right now. They don't care necessarily about how this is going to be when there is a Democrat president. It's going to happen, likely. Look at our lifetime. In the last 40 years, it's pretty much been a swinging pendulum where there has been a Republican, a Democrat, almost entirely in our lifetime. So likely, will this happen again? Sure. And what are the consequences of that action?